Which legendary Reddit post/comment can you still not get over? Not me, but an old friend of mine. Really quiet, soft-spoken, polite guy. A total gentleman and a graduate student in the liberal arts. Also pretty inexperienced, tentative, and vanilla sexually. He's dating this cool girl for about maybe 2 months. She is much kinkier in bed, saying this now. She floats off the idea of dirty talk and apparently likes to be objectified, even demeaned a bit from time to time. He is hesitant, but he wants to please her and doesn't dismiss the idea outright. He changes the subject and figures that they'll revisit the idea another time. Anyway, they have sex a few days later for the first time since the conversation, really going at it doggy style, and she tells him to talk dirty to her. He says that he can't think of anything to say, so he says nothing, and then she repeats the request, but the second time, she's not fucking requesting, but more demanding it. He comes up with, "Yeah, you like that, you fucking retard?" He's never struck me as one for embellishment, so I believe him. He said that it was for sex that night, although they are still together 2 years from now. Courtesy of the original post from user Blackbird82 in the thread, "What's the worst thing someone has said to you during sex?" My family poops big. Maybe it's genetic, maybe it's our diet, but everyone just births giant logs of crap. If anyone has laid a mega poop, you know that sometimes it won't flash. It lays across the hole in the bottom of the bowl, and the vortex of draining water merely just gives it a spin as it mocks you. Growing up, this was a common enough occurrence that our family had a poop knife. It was just an old rusty kitchen knife that hung on a nail in the laundry room, only to be used for that purpose. It was so normal to the fact that someone could just walk through the hallway and have someone call out to you, "Hey, can you get me the poop knife?" I thought it was a standard kit. You have your plunger, your toilet brush, and your poop knife. Fast forward to 22. It's been a day or two between poops, and I'm over at a friend's house. My friend was the local dealer, and always had guests over, because you can't exactly buy weed without sitting on your ass and sampling it for over an hour. I excuse myself and lay a gigantic turd. I look down and I see that it's a sideways one, so I crack the door open and call out for my friend. He arrives and I ask him for his poop knife. "My what?" "Your poop knife," I say. "I need to use it. Please." What the fuck is a poop knife? Obviously he has one, but maybe he gives it a more delicate name. A fecal cleaver? A dung diver? A guano glaive? I explain what it is and why I want it. He starts giggling, then laughing. Then lots of people start laughing. It turns out the music stopped and everyone heard my pleas through the door. It also turns out that none of them had poop knives, and it was just my fucked up family with their fucked up bowels. Fuck my life. I told this to my wife last night, who was amused and horrified at the same time. It turns out she did not know what a poop knife was, and had been using the old rusty knife hanging in the utility closet as a basic utility knife. Thankfully, she didn't cook with it, but instead used it to open Amazon boxes. Yeah, she will be getting her own utility knife now. Edit. Common question, why was this not in the bathroom instead of the laundry room? Answer. We only had one poop knife, and the laundry room was central to all the 3 bathrooms. I have no idea why we didn't have 3 poop knives, all I know is that we didn't. We had the one. Well, it was possibly because my father was notoriously cheap about the weirdest things. So, yes, we shared the poop knife. The Smiling Man. The creepy tale of a guy who encounters a deranged man late at night. The story goes this way. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and I never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all of that changed in just a few minutes one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street on my side was a silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass by me. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was a very tall and lanky individual wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were wide open and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and then stopped, dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing, and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, the smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking, but I kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and the sidewalk were completely empty still, and of course, still being unnerved, I looked back to where he was standing to find him gone. I felt relieved for the briefest moments, until I noticed him. He had crossed the street, and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked for a time that I stood there just staring at him. And then he started moving towards me again. He took a giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps, as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone. Except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point that I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen as the smiling man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me. Still smiling his smile, looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to ask was, "What the fuck do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. But what came out was a whimper. What the fuck? Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then, for what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly, and started to dance-walk away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go, until he was far enough away to be almost out of sight. I then realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto the better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see. I tried really hard to find the original post, but I couldn't find it anymore. Anyway, it was a post in our Am I the Asshole, where an Uber driver drove a girl to a restaurant where she was meeting her boyfriend. Before he dropped her off, he gave her a respectful comment, nothing inappropriate and without any bad intentions. He was asking if he was the asshole, and the answer was no. The best part happens in the comments section, when somebody asked if he was living in a specific city. He replied, a little freaked out, with a yes. Turns out it was the stranger's cousin who he gave the compliment to. After he dropped her off at the restaurant, she went inside to meet her boyfriend. However, it wasn't a nice night because he broke up with her. She told her cousin that the compliment that the Uber driver gave her made her happy and gave her some comfort or something like that. The girl and the Uber driver then contacted each other through the cousin. I don't know what happened afterward, but if somebody knows this post, I will give you a virtual hug if you could link it. I believe I saw it on Reddit, an IT tech-related post. A guy starts a new job as a system admin, with no other IT at the place. Previous admin had just been there for about fucking forever, and left behind some documentation, but not enough to make the job easy. The guy finds a note from the previous tech and with a few miscellaneous tips, and then says, if there is a critical emergency and everything else has failed, there is a box in the server room behind the switch, open only as a last resort. The guy is there for a few years, metaphorical fires get fixed, and he learns the tricks of the place, but one day the servers don't boot. He tries everything, can't get it to work, the files are all there, blah blah blah, the company can't function, and actual fires are about to start. The guy freaks out and remembers the emergency box and figures now should be an emergency, and figures maybe the guy left some sort of access code into an off-site backup or tape drives or some sort of disaster recovery thing, and goes into the server room. Behind the switch is a box. He pulls it out and opens it to find a bottle of tequila. The story of user Jason in Hell is one of the saddest stories I've read on the internet. If you guys don't know the story, user Jason in Hell was a fellow Reddit user that posted his story regarding his wife's cheating with his neighbor on relationship advice. Our relationship advice told him that he would be better off divorcing his wife than dealing with her. A few days later, he posts something on our legal advice to see how he can secure custody of his 2 children during the divorce. His wife, named Brandy Worley, found the Our Legal Advice thread. The same day she found the Reddit posts, she kills both kids to spite her soon-to-be ex-husband. Brandy then calls 911, telling the operator that she stabbed herself and her 2 children because her husband was divorcing her. The call was recorded with Brandy showing no remorse or emotion during the call. This whole situation was unfolding live on Reddit and 4chan. Brandy was given 120 years in prison, with the jury saying she doesn't regret her decision, not one bit. One time on r/relationship advice, some guy posted a thread called My 25 male, girlfriend 26 female, baked all the beans, now I consider ending our relations. What do I do? It's deleted now, though I have the full post, so woohoo. I discovered this in another one of these Ask Reddit posts, but honestly, it's too good not to put here. Now, without further ado, here it is. Hello, my girlfriend and I have been dating for 5 months. I thought, this girl is very good, and became in love with her. Yet, even so, on this Monday, I come home and found she has baked all my beans. Yes, all. Oh, brother. In my cupboard, I store several bags of beans to make them soft and to bake on some days, to have a bit of baked bean on my dinner, or heck, lunch on some days. But on Monday, I found this girl baked all the baked beans. I say, why do you bake my beans? And she says something like, I bake them good to save time, so I bake them all now. I am astonished and full of dismay. I said I cannot eat all the beans, and she said she has frozen many of the beans, and we can unfreeze the other beans on a later day and eat some at a time. But if a bean is frozen and unfrozen, the very good and the very nice flavor of the bean is gone far. A bean is best if baked fresh as a Sunday pie, not to be frozen and unfrozen. I told my girlfriend that I am so sad about this. In my opinion, baking the beans and freezing them has ruined all my beans. She said I am gone haywire, but my arrangement and sad manners. But I hate what she did to my beans. On the days before Monday, I thought, Will we marry the girlfriend? Well, it might be so. But now I am so sad that she baked the beans. I am considering ending our relationship and not being boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. But is my idea wrong? Could my girlfriend make a promise to not bake my beans? I do not know what to do or how to forgive her. So, way back when, in 2008, 2009, some Redditor got very excited over his 2 AM chili and posted an extensive tutorial in full fuck yeah bell pepper style. Naturally, this became a full meme. Concurrently, another Redditor posted nothing less than a life hack of the century. Freeze a block of water, squirt shower gel on the top, freeze that, and now you have ice soap. Trademark. And this was a fine enough goof, but the OP's insistence that this was much more than efficient than putting shower gel on one's body made it become a meme. So, what happens when 2 memes are popular at the same time? Exactly. Someone froze a block of chili and rubbed their body with it, and achieved the coveted #1 spot. This site is weird like that. Sorry, no links as I'm on mobile, but many thanks to whoever is willing to dig them up. The man redirected an entire warship to get the sun off of his eyes. Here's the story, folks. I was once on a US military ship, having breakfast in the wardroom, officer's lounge, when the operator's officer, OPS, walks in. This guy was the definition of not a morning person. He's still half asleep, bleary-eyed, basically a zombie with a bagel. He sits down across from me to eat his bagel and is just barely conscious. My back is to the outboard of the side of the ship, and the morning sun is blazing into one of the portholes, putting a bright-ass circle of light right in front of his barely conscious face. He's squinting and chewing and basically just remembering how to be alive for today. It is painful to watch. But then the zombie OPS stops chewing, slowly picks up the phone and dials the bridge. In his well-known I'm still totally asleep voice, he says, "Hey, it's OPS. Could you shift out the bar? Yeah, 165, thanks." And puts the phone down. And then he just sits there, squinting, waiting. And then, ever so slowly, I realized that the big blazing spot of sun on his face was slowly sliding off of him and onto the wall behind him. After a moment, it clears his face and he blinks slowly a few times that the brilliant beauty of what I've just witnessed begins to overwhelm me. By ordering the bridge to adjust the ship's back and forth patrol about 15 degrees, he changed our course just enough to reposition the sun off of his face. He's literally just redirected thousands of tons of steel and hundreds of people so we could just get the sun out of his eyes whilst he eats a bagel. I am in awe of this man. He slowly picks up his bagel, and for a moment, I'm terrified at the thought of his own genius may escape him, that he may never appreciate the epic brilliance of his laziness, since he's not going to wake up for another hour. But between the next bite, he pauses, looks at me, gives me the faintest, sly grin, before returning to gnaw slowly on his zombie bagel. I still think about it sometimes. This comment about grief by user G Snow is to help someone cope with the sudden death of a friend. It helped me get through all kinds of grief over the last few years, from painful deaths to painful breakups. It really changed my life and how I handle these hard situations. Here's an excerpt. As for grief, you'll find it comes in waves. When the ship is first wrecked, you're drowning with wreckage all around you. Everything floating around you reminds you of the beauty and the magnificence of the ship that once was and is no more. All you can do is float. You find some piece of wreckage and maybe you can hang on to it for a while. Maybe it's some physical thing. Maybe it's a happy memory or some photograph. But maybe it's just a person who's floating as well. For a while, all you can do is just float, stay alive. In the beginning, the waves are 100 feet tall and crash over you without mercy. They can come in 10 seconds apart and don't even give you a chance to catch your breath. All you can do is just hang on and float. After a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, you'll find that the waves are still 100 feet tall. But they come further apart. When they come, they still crash over you and wipe you out, but in between you can breathe, you can function. You never know what's going to trigger the grief. It might be a song, a picture, a street intersection, or even just the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything. And the wave comes crashing. But in between the waves, there is life. Somewhere down the line, and it's different for everybody, you can find that the waves are only 80 feet tall, or 50 feet tall, and while they still come, they come further apart. You can see them coming, an anniversary, a birthday, or Christmas, or landing at O'Hare. You can see it coming, for the most part, and prepare yourself. And when it washes over you, you know that somehow you will, again, come out on the other side, soaking wet, sputtering, hanging on for some tiny piece of wreckage. But you'll come out. I can't remember where this was posted, but this woman had downloaded a sleep app that used an audio recording in her sleep. When she woke up and reviewed the recording, you can hear her talking in her sleep, and she asks questions like, "What are you doing?" And all you can hear is a bunch of muffled noises, and a response which was like, "Go back to sleep," or something like that. OP was trying to help figure out if this was a home invasion or something else. The entire recording is very creepy as a situation was involved. I wish I could remember where it was, but I think about it all the time, and now I don't even want to record my sleep. This one's for all the jealous and insecure people out there. I just realized OP deleted his user, but I hope he knew how much his comment meant to me, and it changed my perspective on things. Still learning not to light any curtains on fire, but hopefully I'll be able to get there soon. Or not. Maybe I'll just commit arson. But anywho, the post goes this way. I was jealous too around your age. My first GF left me when I was 19 for a best friend, and me being jealous surely didn't stop it, that's for sure. They had been friends since childhood, and I was their first BF. The moment we got together, he started to confess his love for her, and when I found out about it, I did what I thought I had to do. I said that, since this guy is clearly in love with you, you shouldn't hang out with him. I could not have been working any harder for the friend's success with my GF even if I tried. The more I tried to stop it, the harder I pushed her to him. I'm not saying that what she did was the right thing or anything, but the goal of jealousy is to keep your partner. I thought that if she spent time with a guy that was in love with her, she might catch feelings for him and dump me and blah 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 blah. So, obviously, I tried to prevent it. This made me come off as needy and insecure, and it drove her to him. I knew I lost her when I said that I would break up with her if she didn't stop seeing him. She agreed to this for like 2 weeks, and then she broke up with me because she didn't want to stop seeing her childhood friend, even if he was in love with her. So what I learned the hard way is that jealousy will cause the problem you are trying to stop. Let me repeat that. Jealousy will cause the problem you are trying to stop. If we don't want our house to burn down, we don't light the curtains on fire. Trying to prevent our girlfriends from meeting other guys is literally lighting the curtains on fire, and hoping that the house won't burn down. It's just illogical. So, how do we fix this? For me, it was learning first that fuck it. If I just hadn't tried to stop his advances, maybe I wouldn't have ended my first relationship. Now I don't care about that in retrospect, but I surely won't act the same way now because I actually want to keep my partner. Secondly, we have to understand that the only person we can control is ourselves. If somebody wants to cheat on us, they can, no matter how controlling we are. Short of locking people in basements, of course, they will have opportunities to cheat if they want to. If you are not willing to risk this, then you just can't have a relationship at all. Third, find me one, just one person that would say this. Yes, I'm very happy with my relationship. I'm not really that into my boyfriend, and I want to hook up with people that I see out and about, but because my BF is so controlling, I have no other choices to do so it's really for the best. Again, the behavior will not prevent bad things from happening. It will only cause it. It's the most counterintuitive thing humans can do. So, this is what you do. You just gotta love like there's no such thing as a broken heart. You assume everything is fine until you see the absolute proof that she cheated on you, like your friends saw her kiss a guy or something. You don't assume it has just happened because you are insecure. You don't have to ask her to prove it if she hasn't even done it. Until you have proof, you assume everything is fine. Because hey, 99 times out of 100, it is. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this.